In the humid heart of Oyo village, Kemi balanced a heavy basket of bananas on her head, her feet dusty from the long walk. The fruit market buzzed with chatter, but her stall remained quiet. Buyers walked past her table to those with fresher, cheaper bananas. Her heart sank. It had been like this for months: slow sales, wasted fruit, and growing hunger at home. Her mother coughed weakly on her mat, and the landlord had threatened eviction. As the sun began to set, a strange man approached. He wore white from head to toe, with a faded walking stick and eyes like still water. "These bananas," he said, tapping her bunch lightly, "will feed more than your belly. Be wise." Before Kemi could ask what he meant, he vanished into the crowd. The next morning, Kemi gasped. Where ripe bananas had once sat were crisp naira notes, bundles of money wrapped in banana peels. She called out in shock. Her neighbor ran over and screamed, alerting others. Word spread quickly. Some claimed it was a miracle. Others whispered it was witchcraft. But no one could explain how the money appeared. Kemi used part of it to pay her debts and buy food for her sick mother. The rest she locked away. That day, she didn't go to the market. She sat in silence, staring at the basket. But by evening, a new bunch of bananas had appeared, yellow and firm. And so the next day, she returned to the market, this time with real bananas again. This time, buyers came in droves. "These bananas taste different," one woman said. "Sweeter, richer," another claimed. It calmed her stomach. Kemi smiled and sold everything by noon. Each banana she sold seemed to leave a faint shimmer in the air. She didn't understand it, but she no longer cared. Money came faster than ever. She hired 2 girls to help her, moved her mother into a better home, and wore new clothes. But that night, a fly buzzed around her window, then another, then hundreds. And in the morning, the leftover bananas on her shelf had turned black. She threw the rotten fruit away and ignored it. "They're just overripe," she told herself. But the next day, the same thing happened. Her new helper, Busy, took 2 bananas home. By dawn, she was vomiting and shaking with fever. Others who had eaten from the batch complained of stomach pain. Maybe it's not the bananas, Kemi reasoned, avoiding the truth. The same stranger reappeared outside her home. "You're feeding them with your blessing, but blessings hoarded rot like forgotten fruit," he said calmly. Kemi chased him away in fear, but her hands trembled as she locked the door. Kemi's wealth grew, but so did the sickness in the village. 3 people fell ill, including a child. The village priest was called, and during a prayer gathering, he warned, "Some gifts come with shadows. Ask yourself, what did you trade for your comfort?" Kemi's chest tightened. She remembered the stranger's words. She had told no one about the money banana transformation, not even her mother. At night, she opened her storehouse and saw that all the bananas were oozing black liquid. The scent made her dizzy. She fell to her knees and wept. For the first time, the money meant nothing. Kemi decided to burn the rotten bananas. She dragged them behind her house and set them on fire. The thick smoke curled upward, dark and bitter, but the stench didn't leave. That night, the air in her compound turned foul. Her mother began coughing blood. The doctors couldn't explain it. The next morning, she found fresh bananas on her stall again, glowing faintly. The temptation was heavy. "Just a few," she whispered, picking them up. But her fingers tingled and a deep voice echoed in her head. "Will you sell sickness for silver?" Still, she packed them and went to market. At the market, she smiled and joked like everything was fine. She sold out before noon, but by nightfall, she got a call. One of her buyers, a pregnant woman, had collapsed. Another child was hospitalized. Rumors spread fast. "Kemi's fruit is cursed," people whispered. Her stall was found empty the next day. Nobody dared come near. She sat alone in her room, staring at the baskets of glowing fruit and piles of money. For the first time, she admitted it. This is no blessing, it's a curse disguised in profit. Her tears soaked into her prayer mat that night. Kemi visited the village priest the next morning. He studied her face and said, "You're carrying something that doesn't belong to you." When she explained the stranger, the priest nodded. "A spiritual test. You failed the first time when you chose silence over confession." He gave her a task: fast for 3 days. Do not touch the bananas. Do not touch the money. Pray with truth. Kemi returned home and locked herself in. Hunger gnawed at her belly. The smell of ripe bananas filled the air, luring her, but she stayed strong, barely. On the second day, someone knocked hard. It was her uncle from the city. "They told me you're now rich. Give me something," he shouted. Bananas the regular way. No magic, just sweat and sunlight. Villagers remained cautious at first, but some quietly bought a bunch or two, remembering how kind she'd become since the curse broke. One day, an old woman approached. I was among those who called you a witch, she confessed, but I was wrong. You showed us courage. May your hands now bring life, not fear. That night, Kemi sat outside, her hands stained with earth, her heart finally calm. She no longer feared fruit or fortune, only silence in the face of truth. Despite the peace, the stranger returned. Kemi spotted him under the palm tree near her compound, still wearing white, still holding that worn-out walking stick, but this time she didn't run. Why did you choose me? She asked. The man smiled faintly. The spirit chooses those with deep hunger, not just for food, but for change. You passed, though not easily. Kemi frowned. I failed at first. Yes, he nodded, but failure that leads to truth is better than success that leads to pride. You've turned the curse into a calling. And with that, he vanished, leaving behind footprints in the dust. Kemi began teaching other girls in the village about choices. She warned them about chasing quick money, about listening to their spirit, about the difference between a blessing and a burden. She gathered young women every week under the mango tree, sharing her story with raw honesty. When your heart wants more than your hands can carry, be careful, she'd say. Even sweet fruit can rot if it comes from the wrong tree. Slowly, her name became respected again, not as a banana seller, but as a teacher, a healer. A warning turned into wisdom. The priest called her one afternoon. A nearby village is suffering something similar. Strange riches, strange sickness, he said. Will you speak to them? Kemi hesitated but agreed. She arrived to see fear in their eyes, just as she once had in hers. She told them everything. How greed almost destroyed her, how confession saved her, how healing required humility. When she finished, the chief stood up. Your scars are louder than your words. Thank you, Kemi realized then. Her pain had not been wasted. It was now a torch for others lost in the same dark path. 1 year after the curse, the village held a feast in Kemi's honor, not for her wealth or beauty, but for her bravery. She didn't wear gold or fine cloth, just her usual wrapper and a head tie. But her smile was richer than ever. Children danced, women pounded yam, even the harshest elders clapped when she walked past. The priest raised a calabash and declared, from cursed fruit came cleansing truth, from shame came strength. May we never chase sweetness without knowing its seed. Kemi bowed her head. She had lost everything and gained something greater, purpose. A government health worker who heard of Kemi's story visited the village. She watched Kemi assist patients, teach hygiene, and share her story with humility. Afterward, the woman said, we need people like you in town clinics. Will you come train others? Kemi's first instinct was to decline. She loved her village, but then she remembered how darkness had spread because no one warned her. Maybe others needed the same light. She agreed on one condition: let me always tell my story. I don't want them to just learn medicine. They must also learn wisdom. In town, Kemi felt small again. The noise, the buildings, the rushing people, it was nothing like Oyo. But in every training session, she spoke with clarity. Some laughed at her banana tale, thinking it's superstition, but others listened, especially the broken ones. A woman approached after class one day. I took money from a man who promised to help me, she whispered, but everything around me is falling apart. Kemi took her hands gently. Then it's time to pull out the roots, not just trim the leaves. You're not alone. The woman wept, and Kemi knew her purpose was growing. Back home, Kemi's farm flourished. She refused to sell too much, just enough to meet her needs and support others. Not every abundance is a blessing, she often said. Children visited her often, playing near the trees. One boy asked, Auntie Kemi, why didn't you keep all the money? She smiled, because it wasn't real. If what you have makes others sick, it's not wealth, it's poison. The boy blinked, confused, but nodded. One day he would understand, just like she had. As the second year passed, Kemi sat beneath her favorite mango tree, writing her story by hand. She called it The Banana That Broke Me. It wasn't a tale of magic, it was a tale of choice. A child sat beside her, eating from a clean, ripe banana. You're like the sun, Auntie Kemi, he said. You came after the storm, she laughed softly. I was the storm once, but storms pass. What matters is what they leave behind. Her legacy was not in fruits or money, but in the roots of hearts she helped plant with truth. A journalist from Lagos arrived unexpectedly. We heard about your story, he said. Your name has reached the city. We want to feature you in a magazine. Kemi hesitated. She never sought fame, only healing. But she agreed on one condition. Write the truth, not the drama. Let people know what I learned, not just what I lived. The article went viral. Messages poured in from all over Nigeria. Women, youth, farmers. Your story saved me, one read. I almost made the same mistake, another confessed. Kemi didn't feel like a celebrity. She felt like a mirror, one that reflected hard truth. Kemi's clinic and farm soon received donations. She used them wisely, not to build a mansion, but to expand her teaching. She added a counseling center beside her small farm. People came not just to buy fruit, but to unburden their hearts. One day, a young girl arrived from a distant village. I want to learn from you, she said. My mother said you're the woman who turned a curse into a calling. Kemi welcomed her in. Then we'll start with the soil. Healing doesn't grow in gold. It grows where your hands touch the earth with honesty. That night, around the fire, the villagers shared folk tales. And when it was Kemi's turn, she told the truth, not a myth, but her life. And every ear leaned in like it was legend. Years later, Kemi stood at the edge of her farmland, now lush with banana trees. Not one had ever turned into money again, and she was grateful. Children called her Mama Banana, not in mockery, but in honor. She walked through the rows slowly, touching each tree. You taught me, she whispered, that not everything sweet is safe, that not every gift is good, and that sometimes blessings wear the face of pain. A breeze passed through the leaves. It felt like a thank you. On her 50th birthday, the village held a festival for Kemi. They danced, sang songs in her name, and shared free bananas. She wore no crown, just her usual wrapper, but every heart bowed with respect. When asked to speak, Kemi stood before the crowd and said, I once prayed for riches. I received a test instead. I once sold sickness. I now serve healing. If you forget everything else, remember this. Never trade your soul for sweetness. Some fruits are only ripe when shared. The crowd clapped. And somewhere far off, the man in white smiled and walked on. Morale? Greed can disguise itself as a blessing. True wealth is found in truth, service, and humility. What you hide can hurt others, but what you confess can heal even generations.